I will also copy this wall shading group here. Let's enable the layers with our wooden frame. Select it. Get rid of everything but the output and press Ctrl V and Ctrl Shift to click this. Now we can replace our map. Oh no, here we'll be using tileable map. So this is going to be quite different, but we'll also use the UV coordinates, but this time we'll need this texture coordinate setup because it will give us control on the tile. So let me duplicate this and let's unify those. Now I can load different map we have. Tileable wooden displacement. Here in the dirt map, tileable wooden dirty on the AO. And we'll also need this mapping for the rock normal, and I will explain you why. Tileable rock normal, and this will be the same for this one. Let me source the tileable rock dirty. So by default we'll be using our first map here, where all the frame were set so that we have the stripes going horizontally or along the wooden shape, which is natural. But I don't know how this will react, those tileable texture, so I need a way to be able to scale it. We will use the UVs because we have created them for this purpose actually. So let's just enter rendering mode here. Oh, I'm on generating. Switch to UV. Now this should look better. So currently I will need to rotate those, the Z, by 90 degrees. And now we can see our wooden pattern following our wooden frames. So let's see the output here. And I believe I still have some, yep, here the tileable wooden normal. I've made a mistake. Okay, it looks way better now. The random node is not useful anymore. We can get rid of it. Instead, we can simply add the color for our wood. Something like this, for example. Let's see the result here. So we have this nice pattern here. Let's see our different influences. So this is our texture, metal texture. We won't be using it for the time being, so I will mute this node. Now what I have here is currently the wooden color we have created. I believe the displacement influence here is way too strong. If I mute it, you can see the difference. So I will set it to 0.3 or so. Re-enable it so that we just have subtle variation here. Then this is our multiply. I believe our color is a bit too saturated here. We need to add a real wood information upon it, and maybe add some color variation, because for the time being it looks pretty consistent. I don't know. So I've got the first problem here, is that our displacement map, which we have baked, is inverted. So let's add here a color invert, and now we can see that the creases are currently darkened. Now if I add this as an influence, we'll see a more natural look and more color variation, which are very interesting. So instead of applying it directly onto this, I will use it as a factor to make some color variation. So let's move it there, use it as a factor here, and switch this dot map to this slot. Here we'll use a simple mix and see how it looks right now. So now I can darken those areas and maybe make this slightly lighter. So it looks now. So I prefer this. We have a more contrasted look, maybe a little too contrasted for the time being, but we really have this stylized texture effect, which I love and which will really blend really well with our models. Now let's add upon this a real wood texture using this texture wood roof. We really need to increase the scale. Let's try 5 or maybe 25, and that looks better. And now I believe we can maybe rotate it on an axis. So I will be cheating here. Instead of using the generated coordinates, which are coordinates that can be deformed on an object, we can use the object coordinate. If our object was to be moved in space or deformed, we should not use this, because those coordinates won't support deformation and you will see your texture sliding on your model. But in our case, we won't be animating it, or at least it won't currently move, so we can use them. And it should be way easier to plan and I let you judge this just by setting the basic values here. We get to a nice result. So let's unmute this and see how it looks with this overlaid influence here, and this will add a nice also influence on the bump. So let's check our shader here. That's very, very nice. So now we need to make it less shinier for sure compared to the other one. So let's set the facing value to 0.01 and this to only 0.1, and we will slightly increase the roughness also. I believe that it was quite high already, so we can keep it this way. But what I would like is to use the pointiness value to make the corners a little lighter, and you'll see that that will make our model even more interesting. So I've activated only this wooden part layer to avoid Blender to crash. I will save it and I will push the subdivision here to 2 as on our modifier. Let me check. Now we are getting to 3. So I will stop rendering and push the simplify to 3. Why do so? It's because whenever you render something using the pointiness attribute, its appearance changes depending on the level of subdivision. So let's add here an input geometry, and we'll use the pointiness with the converter color ramp that we can plug in here, and press Ctrl H to get rid of the useless slots. And we'll add another curve here. I will now reset the curve by deleting those points, and I want the edges to be slightly lighter, like this. And this will be based on the influence of the pointiness here. So let's move it closer and see how it looks. Now I can push this until it turns nearly to black. I will use a B-spline interpolation. Maybe a linear interpolation will be easier to handle. and we'll use this as a factor. So now if I check, I should have a lighter color on the corners here based on the influence of this RGB curve. Instead, I will be using a color hue and saturation because I would like also to reduce the saturation on those. So let's use this as a factor and let's check. Let's reduce the saturation to 0.7 and increase the value to 1.1. Those values might be too low. Let's see now. Yeah, now I have the influence here. So maybe the saturation to 0.8. So this is our base color. I will set the value to 1 only. And that should be okay. Let's get rid of this one. Let's plug this in our diffuse color and check the shader here. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Those slight desaturated angle. I can even push this to 0.9 and that's more subtle. Let's frame those by just moving them inside and then recover this. So what I wanted to show you is that here, if I let you see the influence of the pointiness, if I reduce the subdivision level, you will see it totally changing here. So that's important when you are shading using this geometry attribute to do it with your final render. You can see that now the influence is way bigger. Now if I unzoom a little, you can see that it's very, very interesting. We have this nice wooden pattern here. I can enable the second layer, or at least try it, and this is looking very, very good. So my wood might be a bit too saturated, but again, it's just a matter of playing with two color slots here, so that's really easy to handle, and we are getting a very, very nice result now. So here I can't help making a short render to see the result, but it already looks really fine when we remember all we have done in modeling to get to this. So I'm pretty happy with the result. Now we'll start shading the walls, and we'll use some nice UV technique to get to a good result pretty fast.